Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ashley Cook, Supervisory Attorney Advisor at the Board of Ethics and Government Accountability, and I will be conducting your Hatch Act training today. Thank you guys for attending. This is our second session for our Ethics Week. We're very excited about this week. Okay, so today's training, we're going to talk about political activity, how the Local Hatch Act restricts your local political activity, as well as political activity, all political activity, and how those rules relate to conducting your job in the virtual world while you're teleworking. A few housekeeping things. Everyone has been muted. It's just we could not conduct this training, or I could not conduct this training with this amount of people and have you guys unmuted, so everyone has been muted. If you have a question throughout the presentation, you can go ahead and type it within the chat. I will try to answer your question if I see it, but I have allotted some time at the end for Q&A, so if I don't get to your answer during the presentation, I will definitely look in the chat and then answer your question. One more thing, if you are a call-in, if you are attending this training via telephone only, go ahead and type your name and your agency within the chat feature, the chat box, so that I can mark your attendance. That's if you're calling in only. Okay, so with that being said, we'll go ahead and get started. All right, again, this is Hatch Act training. We're going to talk about the Local Hatch Act. The Local Hatch Act, it restricts the political activity of district government employees. So again, this is about political activity, not necessarily some other conduct or misconduct that may be captured by a different ethics rule. This deals specifically with political activity. First, we're going to talk about who's covered by the Local Hatch Act. Okay, who are considered employees under the Local Hatch Act? Number one, individuals who are paid by the district government from a grant or appropriated funds, a member of a board or commission that's confirmed under Section 2E of the Confirmation Act. For example, my board, BEGA, is under that section, Section 2E of the Confirmation Act. And a member who is confirmed under Section 2F of the Confirmation Act, a member of a board or commission under Section 2F of the Confirmation Act. An example of that type of board would be the Board of Medicine. So a member of that board could not engage in certain political activity that relates to a subject matter before their board, such as a medical marijuana initiative. Those people who are not covered by the Local Hatch Act, or they're not considered employees, are employees of the court, members of the council, the mayor, ANC commissioners, members of State Board of Education, members of statehood delegation, and the Attorney General. For most of those people that you see listed under not an employee, as a practical matter, they have to run for office in order to keep their jobs. So they're not covered by the Local Hatch Act, but they are subject to rules that prohibit them from using government resources for political purposes, and they are subject to the ethics rules. All right, again, we're talking about political activity. The Local Hatch Act restricts the political activity of district government employees. So this is the definition of political activity within the statute. It's any activity that is directed towards the success, that is regulated by the district and directed towards the success or failure of a political party, candidate for partisan political office, partisan political group, ballot initiative, or referendum. So these are the things, if you can think of anything that you would vote on at the election, at the polls, those things are considered political activity. Candidates, ballot initiatives, referendums, those things that you actually vote on, they're considered political activity, and your political activity is directed towards the success or failure of one of those things: a candidate, ballot initiative, referendum. And the local hatch act, it slightly differs. There is a portion that we're going to talk about where it covers all political activity, not just district-regulated political activity, but district-regulated political activity is within the definition of political activity within the Hatch Act. So when I say regulated by the district, I'm talking about your local campaigns, your local political parties, political groups that are regulated by the DC Board of Elections. That's what I mean when I say regulated by the district, your local campaigns. What is not considered political activity? So answering questionnaires. A good example of that would be the census. Answering questions about the census, that's not considered political activity. Scheduling. If you're employed by a certain agency, or maybe you're employed at the council, and you are in charge of scheduling for a council member or for a district employee, scheduling is not considered political activity because you are not engaged in activity that's directed towards the success or failure of that candidate. You're only scheduling. You're going in and you're looking at comparing one calendar to the next, and then you're maybe noting an event or something like that. It's scheduling. It's not political activity. Working as a volunteer poll worker. Poll workers do not engage in political activity. They simply help with the voting process. They help to organize the actual event at the polls, to keep people, I guess, in lines and to help them with the machines and other things like that. They're not actually engaged in, they're not advocating or opposing a candidate. They're not engaged in political activity. So volunteering as a poll worker is not considered political activity. One thing I do want to say is that if you are going to volunteer, though, you cannot do it while you're on duty. You have to do so outside of your tour of duty or while you're on leave. Discussing legislation and nonpartisan elections. So legislation, those things we do not vote on at the polls, such as Obamacare, gun control, the government budget. Those things are considered legislative matters. They're not, if you engage in those types of activities, you're not engaging in political activity. And also nonpartisan elections. So if you want to discuss an ANC candidate, those ANC candidates are nonpartisan. That is also not considered political activity. Discussing issues, social issues such as abortion, immigration, Black Lives Matter, those are social issues. They do not have anything to do with our political process. They're not considered political activity. Attending social events such as a march or a rally, that is also not engaging in political activity. When the pandemic first started and we had a lot of social justice issues going on, well, some people might say we still do, but at that time when they were having a good number of Black Lives Matter marches across the country, we got tons of questions as to whether employees can participate in those marches, of course, off duty, and yes, they can. Again, attending those type of social issue events are not considered political activity. Now, one thing I do want to say is if you're going to attend one of those events, then you do not want to, you want to keep your district employment separate. We got a question as to whether some employees could wear some type of government insignia or uniform to one of those rallies. And the answer was no, because you want to keep your district employment separate from any type of social march or rally that you go to. One thing is that you don't want to run afoul of the local Hatch Act. Sometimes at those rallies, there is There is a likelihood that some political speech may go on, some political activity may occur, and you don't want to have on your uniform or official government insignia while you're engaging in that. And we're going to talk about that a little bit towards the end. But the key thing to remember is that activity that does not include showing support or opposition for a political party or candidate is not considered political activity. All right, so when you're engaging in your district-regulated political activity, that deals with your local elections and your local ballot measures. These are the things that you cannot do. Number one, you cannot file for office as a partisan candidate. You cannot run for mayor, council member, attorney general. Those are partisan offices within the district. If you decide to run for one of those offices, you have to turn in your letter of resignation with your agency, and then you file your declaration of candidacy to run for office in that order. You cannot file while you're still employed. If you want to run for nonpartisan office, again, that's ANC commissioner, you can do so. That is nonpartisan, ANC. Also, if you want to run for member of State Board of Education, that's also a nonpartisan office. But I do believe that their statute prohibits, they have some restrictions on serving as a district employee and as a member of the SBOE. But you can run for that office because it's also nonpartisan. Okay, if you're a resident of a jurisdiction outside of the district and you want to run for partisan office within that jurisdiction, you can do so. If you live in Maryland or Virginia and you want to run for partisan office there in either one of those jurisdictions, you can certainly do so. Again, you are prohibited from running for a district partisan office. Okay, so this is the second rule as it relates to your district-regulated political activity. You cannot fundraise, and that is fundraise for a partisan candidate or a partisan political group that is regulated by the district. So that means that you cannot fundraise for someone who's running for mayor, council member, or attorney general. Those are your partisan offices within the district. You cannot fundraise for them whether you're on duty or off duty. You just cannot fundraise for them, period. It's a total prohibition. This is the definition of fundraising: knowingly soliciting, accepting, or receiving a political contribution from any person. You cannot fundraise for a partisan candidate within the district. So there is some fundraising that is allowed. If you're running for ANC, a nonpartisan office, or State Board of Education, then you can fundraise for your own partisan campaign. You can fundraise for someone else who's running for a nonpartisan district-regulated campaign. And you can fundraise for someone who's running for a partisan office outside of the district. So again, the prohibition is on fundraising for district partisan candidates as well as partisan groups. Okay, a little bit more about fundraising. So this is your virtual aspect. Since the majority of us are teleworking, fundraising, it includes hosting, co-hosting an event, whether it's in person or virtual. So I could not host a virtual Zoom fundraiser for a partisan candidate, someone who was, say, running for at-large council member. I could not give a fundraising speech, whether in person or online. And of course, no direct fundraising, no direct solicitations in person, telephone, or on social media. And social media fundraising also includes liking, posting, sharing, or retweeting a post that solicits political contributions. So you want to remember that. So if you see a post that maybe it's a candidate that's running for, again, at-large council member in the district, a post about soliciting campaign funds for that candidate, You cannot like that post, share it, or retweet it, and you can't post it. That's your social media restriction for fundraising. Again, that's for your district-regulated partisan elections. All right, there's a special exception for the mayor and each member of the council that allows them to designate one employee to engage in fundraising on their behalf. Of course, that employee has to be on leave, and that employee cannot engage in that fundraising while they're in a government room or building where official duties are being discharged. But this is a special exception. It's called the designated employee exception. Those designations are on our website. We post them. If you guys want to go and check them out to see exactly who's been designated by which council member, then you can do so. Or the mayor. It's on our website. All right, so you are prohibited from fundraising for district partisan candidates. However, you can host a meet and greet if you would like to. Meet and greets are not fundraisers. Meet and greets are events. It's usually held at someone's home within the community where candidates come out and they meet members of the public and talk about maybe political objectives, but there is no fundraising at the event. That's the main thing. There is no fundraising at the event. It is not a fundraiser. Also, there shouldn't be a cost to attend the event. There shouldn't be any type of contributions given for food and refreshments either. It's just a candidate coming in and meeting members of the public, and that's it. If you're going to host a meet and greet, we always suggest that you put some type of disclaimer on your flyer or your notice that you're sending out that states that this event is strictly a meet and greet. It is not a fundraiser, and you should not allow any fundraising at your event. Okay, so those are the rules that apply to your district-regulated political activity. Now we're going to talk about the restrictions as they apply to all political activity. So here, that district regulated by the district part of the definition, it actually falls off the definition. We're talking about the restrictions on all political activity now. It doesn't matter if it's a district campaign, a federal campaign, an election that's going on in Maryland, Virginia, or some other state that's a little bit farther from us. This is all political activity restrictions. So number one, no political activity while you're on duty. And you're on duty when you're in a paid status other than leave or representing the district government. And here you see on duty includes teleworking, telecommuting, which most of us are doing right now. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in depth. Also, no political activity in a district, room, or building where official duties are being discharged. That's where your agency is, or any district government agency. No political activity while you're in that setting. Okay, so let's talk about on duty and telecommuting. All right, here's some examples of things that you cannot do while you're on duty. You cannot wear any type of political buttons, T-shirts, hats, or anything that, again, is directed towards the success or failure of a political party, candidate for partisan political office, while you're attending any type of virtual meeting or training. This also applies if you are in a government building. No political T-shirts or buttons or hats of any nature. You cannot display any type of posters, photographs, campaign materials of a candidate. And you cannot use any type of political-related identifiers as your name on, say, for instance, a Zoom meeting or a WebEx meeting. Stick to your name. You cannot use any type of identifiers that supports a candidate. For example, Mr. Make America Great Again. That would be a clear clear political activity because you're supporting a candidate that's running for political office. So these are the things that you should not do while you're on duty and teleworking, and they also apply to if you go into the office for any reason. All right, on duty and teleworking a little bit more. So you cannot post, like, share, or retweet a message in support or opposition of a candidate or a partisan political group or anything like that. You're on duty. It's the same as if you were in your office. You're being paid. You're in a pay status. So you shouldn't engage in those activities while you're on duty, even though you're teleworking. And this applies to using even your personal devices. So if I'm teleworking and then I'm doing some work on my computer, I pick up my phone and then I want to, I'm on social media and I see a post about a candidate that I like, I should not share or like or retweet that post while I'm on duty, even on my personal phone or using my personal email account. And I also can't share it with coworkers and friends who are like-minded. Maybe they support the same candidate as I do. I'm on duty. I should wait until I'm off duty to do so. Fundraising. Again, you cannot engage in fundraising, period, for partisan district candidates, but you can engage in, say, fundraising for, again, ANC commissioner or someone who's running for office outside of the district, outside of your tour of duty. When you're on duty, you cannot engage in that fundraising. And the restriction even goes as far as accepting, as marking your attendance or accepting an invitation to a fundraising event and making contributions for a political purpose. So I can't contribute to my favorite candidate while I'm on duty. I have to wait until I get off or when I'm on leave. All right, so let's test your knowledge. I want to attend a staff meeting. Can I wear any of these shirts? What do you guys think? Prohibited or permitted? All right. Great, great. Great. These are prohibited. Clearly, they're directed towards the success or failure of one of the candidates that are running for president. Here you have Women Can Stop Trump. That's in opposition of President Trump. Will you shut up, man? Biden. You see it in small, very small words. It says Biden-Harris 2020. And the Trump 2020, that's very obvious. That's supporting President Trump as a candidate. Great. Here's another one. So I like to drink coffee during our meetings. What if I just raise this up and take a sip? What do you guys think? Prohibited or permitted? Great, great. So easy, right? Vote like a Dem. I'm supporting a political party. America needs a big cup of Joe. This is supporting presidential candidate Joe Biden. And don't hate me because I'm a Democrat. Of course, that's, again, promoting a political party. All right, what about here? So I want to wear one of these shirts, and I want to drink my coffee. Prohibited or permitted? All right, most of you. Oh, a little 50-50 there. So these are permitted. Again, these social issues, these are social issues. These are not political issues. We're not going to go to the ballot and vote on whether Black Lives Matter should do something. They're a social organization. So is Blue Lives Matter. Gun control, NRA mug, that's okay. And of course, gun control is always an issue a social issue. They're not political activity. They're not political issues. Someone said it seems like an endorsement, but they're not. They're not. They're okay. All right, so your restrictions continue on all political activity. You cannot engage in political activity while you're wearing an official uniform or official government insignia that identifies your office. Nor can you do so when you're using a government vehicle. So no political activity while you're wearing your uniform, your ID badge, a shirt that has maybe your office, your agency's logo on it. And if you're using a government vehicle, you cannot engage in political activity while you're driving around in that vehicle. With all political activity, you cannot coerce a subordinate to engage in political activity. That includes fundraising. And you should not use your official authority or your influence to affect the results of an election. So if you're going to go out and volunteer for someone's campaign, whether it be district or otherwise, you should leave your district employment separate. You should not even mention it. You shouldn't use it, your official district employment, to try to gain votes for that person. All right, and here are your social media rules. We talked about these, but I want to actually, emphasize them some more. No fundraising on social media, period, for a district-regulated partisan candidate. You cannot do it in person. You cannot do it on social media. You can't do it online. That's it. District-regulated partisan candidate, no fundraising, period. You cannot use an official social media account. That is your maybe an account that your agency uses or that you use to post official matters. You cannot use that account to engage in political activity, so you shouldn't post anything or retweet or like any posts that deal with political activity, because this is an official email account. This is considered government property. It's a government resource. And you cannot use your official title and position, again, when you're posting political messages. Even if I'm off duty, if I want to post something about my favorite candidate, I cannot use my official position, my official title with the district government. I can't say Ashley Cooks, attorney at Bega, and I support such and such candidate. I can't do it. But you can have your official title listed on your social media account, maybe your LinkedIn or any other account, and that's okay. If you have it listed and you engage in that political activity, you're not actually using your title to engage in that political activity. You're not using your title to render votes for that candidate. So that's the distinction. Exploratory committees. So employees are allowed to have exploratory committees to test the waters to see if they will be a viable candidate. Of course, this is probably too late right now for anybody since the election is next month, but you are allowed to have an exploratory committee. However, exploratory committees that are formed by employees cannot engage in fundraising. So someone else can create that exploratory committee for you if they're going to engage in fundraising. And then you cannot engage in actual fundraising. The Federal Hatch Act is similar to our local Hatch Act. In fact, district employees used to be wholly subject to the Federal Hatch Act before the council created our local Hatch Act. So those employees who are paid in whole or in part with federal funds, you're still subject to the Federal Hatch Act. Your agency can direct you. They can tell you if you are one of those covered employees. One restriction I know that the Federal Hatch Act is they have a restriction on running for elective office. So you guys can always check with the U.S. Office of Special Counsel to see for any Federal Hatch Act questions. We only give advice on the local Hatch Act as well as the ethics rules. But if you're one of those employees, then you can always contact the U.S. Office of Special Counsel, or you can call us and we'll direct you to them And if you're covered in part, then we'll give you some local Hatch Act advice. All right, so here's our May Not and May sheet. This is actually listed on our website. It's a PDF that you can download to your computer. It's a quick reference to the rules that we talked about today. If you need a quick, you need an answer right away and you don't have time to contact us, you can always look at this and then contact us, of course. And we have some other guidance related to the Hatch Act on our website that deals specifically with a virtual world with most of the employees telecommuting. And it talks about the stuff that I talked about today, how you're still on duty when you're teleworking and you should not engage in political activity while you're on duty. It talks about those fundraising restrictions. Even though you're not in the office, you're telecommuting. So you can check that out on our website, and that is the link down below. And I have a few true and false questions for you guys. I know you guys did very well on the prohibited and permitted section. So let's do these true and false questions. Mary Ann's spouse is running for at-large council, D.C. Council, in the upcoming election. She has organized a fundraiser on Zoom and created a GoFundMe account to support the campaign. The fundraiser is scheduled for 7 p.m. on Saturday, and Mary Ann will not be on duty at that time. Mary Ann is allowed to host the fundraiser and maintain the GoFundMe account. What do you guys think? True or false? All right, so looks like the majority. False. Mary Ann cannot host that fundraiser, and she cannot maintain that GoFundMe account. Remember, the fundraising restriction for district-regulated political activity, it prohibits you from fundraising for any partisan district office. Her husband is running for at-large council member. So he is running for a partisan district office. You cannot fundraise for a partisan district candidate. Now, if her husband was running for a seat in, let's say, PG County, that is not district regulated. That's regulated by the state of Maryland. So she would be allowed to host that Zoom fundraiser and to maintain that GoFundMe account. All right. Also, if her husband was running for ANC commissioner in the district, ANC is nonpartisan. It's a nonpartisan office, so she would be permitted to host that fundraiser and maintain a GoFundMe account. Again, the restriction applies to partisan political offices within the district. Okay, I only have 2 true and false, so this is the last one. John can attend a virtual campaign event that occurs 1 hour before his tour of duty ends. True or false? All right, that was a softball. Great. That's right. If he takes leave, he can attend the virtual fundraiser. But otherwise, he cannot. He's still on duty. All right, so I have a question here about yard signs. So can you have a political yard sign at your home? Yes, you can. That's your house. Even though we're all working from home now, it's not your office in that sense. So that is your home. You can have a political yard sign at your house. Here's our contact information. If you have any local Hatch Act questions, you can always contact us via email or telephone. And now this is our Q&A time. If you have any questions, go ahead and type it within the chat box, and I'll provide you with an answer. If you go to the bottom of your screen, there should be a little chat bubble, as well as it says chat. You can go ahead and click in there. Click that and type your question. And yes, copies of this presentation will be posted on our website after Ethics Week. Everyone who has attended this training will receive any of the trainings that we're hosting this week, you will receive an email as confirmation of your attendance. If you are a call-in person and you have not, you did not view this presentation via your computer, you just called in, you can always send, well, let's see. Okay, I got you. Great. If you called in, please send us an email or try, I don't know if you're able to on your phone to still type in your name, but you can do so. Again, the presentation will be posted on our website. It may be posted there by the end of the week, but it will definitely be posted there next week. We have other trainings that are coming up. I don't see any other questions within the chat box. We have quite a few trainings coming up. If you guys want to go to our website to register, you can. You'll see that we have tomorrow negotiating employment and post-employment as well as outside employment. The trainings on tomorrow start at 11 a.m. We have 11 a.m. post-employment and negotiating for employment, and then we have outside employment at 2 p.m. Oh, a question. What about bobbleheads of a national candidate on your desk at work? That is prohibited. That's the same as wearing a political T-shirt. That is engaging in political activity while on duty. So you shouldn't have that bobblehead on your desk at work. Even if your desk is not viewable by members of the public, you shouldn't have that. That's the same as having a picture, a political picture of a candidate or a T-shirt or poster. You shouldn't have the bobblehead at work. Any more questions? Okay, if there are no more questions, then that's it. Again, you guys can check out the rest of our presentations. If you go to our website, vega.dc.gov, and then you go to upcoming events, about halfway down the page, you can check them out. Or you can always register if you already have a copy of the course schedule. You can register using the links on the course schedule. And again, my name is Ashley Cooks, and it was my pleasure to provide this Hatch Act training for you guys today. Okay, thank you. Have a good day, everyone, and be safe.